Humans are a complicated species. We have many complex emotions and express them in various different ways. Throughout our sophomore year, we have read many novels and explored how different authors have expressed different characters dealing with hard situations. But, despite this, they are all tied together into one common theme: being separated from society.
First, we will discuss J.D. Salinger's novel, The Catcher in the Rye, and how the main character Holden deals with hardships throughout the story. In the novel, as the story progresses, Holden encounters more and more complications, especially involving his love life. The first girl that Holden talks about is Jane Gallagher. Throughout the story, Holden mentions her because she is one of the few whom he finds attractive but also respects. Jane never actually talks in the book, but her influence on Holden is astounding. From the very beginning of the book, Holden seems very angry with his life. He swears a lot, smokes cigarettes, and is constantly lying. After he is done with Penn State School, he goes back to New York to find a new life away from education. On the way, he flirts with a classmate's mom, but nothing fruitions. Once in New York at the height of his depression, he accepts a prostitute. But because he is so down and blue, he doesn't do anything with her except talk about his feelings. Because he doesn't pay, the pimp beats him up, which leaves him even more depressed. The last female is Sally, who goes on a date with Holden. It unravels into a confrontation where Holden insults her because she doesn't want to run away with him. He wants to abandon society with someone he barely knows. This, altogether, makes Holden feel alienated from society, like he doesn't belong.
Secondly, we will discuss Mark Haddon's book, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. In this book, the main character, Chris, is autistic. Throughout the book, in contrast to Holden from The Catcher in the Rye, is very straightforward and logical in the way he talks. He often gets into tangents about mathematics and science. To him, being human means having order and logic. A good example to show this is that, throughout the book, if he sees cars in a specific color pattern, it means he's going to have a good or a bad day. Another example is, in the beginning, he hits a police officer right after he discovers the dead dog because he thought the police officer was lying, which Chris hates. Chris often asks a lot of questions, and because of this, he often gets into confrontation.
Lastly, we will discuss William Golding's book, The Lord of the Flies. This book is similar to the first book, The Catcher in the Rye, as it has to do with isolation from other humans, but in this case, in a much more literal sense. The fact they are all just children accentuates the fact that they are all alone and have nobody but each other on an island in the middle of the ocean. They are just grade schoolers, and they have to formulate and build an entire society from scratch, but their brains aren't developed yet, so they make irrational decisions. They make a bunch of downright bad decisions throughout the story that makes their way of life bad. They come up with a tangible item to symbolize speaking rights, a conch. The conch represents provenance and importance to the boys. When the conch breaks, the only character with absolute logic and reasoning, Piggy, simultaneously dies. This series of events, and how they happened, represent how their society wasn't structured well, and human interaction was limited, which made them simply inhumane to each other. To conclude, all these brilliant works of literature describe different accustomed ways how characters express adversity, conflict, and dealing with being separated from society in one way or another.